Hey, what's up everybody? I am out for a little walk today. Beautiful day here before it actually turns to sweltering heat on the East Coast. So I wanted to make a quick video because I haven't made one in a while. Just kind of debating what to actually make the videos on, where the channel wants to go, and things like that for anxiety recovery, mostly topics, lifestyle changes and things like that. Just what to actually make content on to best serve whatever audience the channel does pull in. From what I see, most of the views are on videos based on ectopic heartbeats, and how I guess fearful people are of them, and how much they can essentially debilitate you and bring your life kind of to a halt. And that's kind of my experience with them, or it was my experience with them when I first kind of got caught up in that cycle. So I guess this video is kind of going to be essentially a reiteration of some of the things that I say before in previous videos, but there might be a new way of saying it that pops into my head that might resonate with you better than what was said in earlier videos. And also it might just be a compilation of bullet points throughout multiple videos that can be just put into one video. So with that being said, I guess the first thing to say about the what's and the whys and hows in terms of treating it and all that kind of stuff is the ectopic heartbeats are perfectly normal to have in honestly most people. So the perfectly healthy people that you can see on the street that you think have no problems whatsoever, and they're walking about, they're going about their life and have no issues with ectopics that you would think are in actuality probably definitely having them. They're just not really feeling them. They're not fearful of them. It doesn't stop them in their tracks. They might feel a little bit of something. They might think that it's a gas bubble going up through the esophagus sometimes, depending on, just depending on what sensation that they feel. I know that when I was pretty much in the thick of everything, it would feel essentially like a hiccup in the breath kind of thing. And then after I started to realize exactly what it was and pinpoint it, I would feel like, okay, so it was... I could feel like, oh, okay, so here was the off kind of beat, or the really light beat that came through prematurely from a different chamber, followed by the actual heartbeat that came through more pronounced, that made it feel like that, that hiccup or that catch. And then you would have like one, I guess, like follow-up harder beat after that to put it, just kept it in normal rhythm. Which, again, is perfectly normal. Now, everybody that you talk to, and I've talked to multiple people about this, my own, cardiologists around my way, because again, when I was going through it, I saw 6-7 cardiologists. No lie, no bullshit. I was going crazy. I was losing my mind. Life was kind of falling apart. So, and as you can see, like now I can go out, I can walk. I'm out in beautiful weather. I enjoy myself a lot more than I did in just a year's time. So it's very possible, and I'll get into that at the end. This is probably going to be a little bit longer of a video. So anyway, I was talking to like 5 or 6 different cardiologists, obviously most of which you'll never know because they're just local cardiologists around where I live. But 2 people that I spoke to you might actually know of. So the first one is Dr. Ken Berry, who is on YouTube. He has over 2 million subscribers. He is not a cardiologist, but he was a family physician for over 20 years. He's now in the keto space. That's where he made a name for himself on YouTube. Just talking about dietary changes and things like that to improve your life quality, chronic conditions and things like that. Which I do think that ectopics and off-skip heartbeats can be, a chronic condition that might be able to be fixed. I can't guarantee anything, but they might be able to be, if not fixed, then improved based on, lifestyle choices and things that you're doing with your life, what you're putting into your body and stuff like that. And I guess I'll get more into that again toward the end of the video. So, I spoke to him, and he told me the same thing. He's like, you might have ectopic heartbeats, and you might feel something, every now and again or something, or whenever they may come about, and there can be nothing wrong with your overall health, with the health of your heart, and all that. There can, again, be literally nothing wrong, because everybody has them. He's like, even myself, I put a Holter monitor on myself, and I don't feel anything most of the time. But when I look on the Holter report, I have ectopic heartbeats, but my heart is totally healthy and fine. So to couple that with the fact that Dr. Sanjay Gupta of Urocardiogy, that I've spoken to numerous times, love this man. Anybody who has ectopic heartbeats and is really freaking out about them, doesn't know what's going on, they go to their cardiologist. The cardiologist says, you have extra beats, because this was me too. You have extra beats, don't worry about it. That shit does not help at all. You have, a moment or two where you go outside. I remember thinking that I was dying, that my heart was failing. I was having like a heart attack and all this kind of, irrational nonsense, basically. But I went to my cardiologist, got my results back, was fearing the worst, got the best. Your heart's totally healthy. Nothing wrong with the structure of your heart. Your valves are all perfect. Your left atrium, which is another thing that people were, I'm not going to get into that because it might open up a whole nother can of worms, but my left atrium is totally fine, normal. My ejection fraction, totally normal. Literally nothing at all wrong with my heart. Talking to Dr. Gupta, I had 2 consultations with him when I was talking to him about my numbers, my results, everything like that, where he also said the same thing to me. He's like, based on your what I see on the test results and the numbers and all that, he's like, I wouldn't even recommend you getting in a second run of testing, because I think that everything is fine, and I think you're fine. Oh, calcium score was another one that I had done, because I had gotten everything done because the doctors knew that I was freaking out. And even my personal cardiologist said, if these numbers all come back good, live your life. I don't want to see you back for 5 to 8 years. There's nothing wrong with you. You're totally healthy. So when Dr. Gupta looked at those numbers, he said, I wouldn't even recommend going for a second round of testing. I think everything's fine. Everything sounds benign. It just sounds like you have ectopic heartbeats, and you're one of the few people that can actually feel them. Which, isn't, it's, I guess, bittersweet, I guess, because you don't want to feel them. And I never felt them all through my life until maybe a few years back. I started to feel them randomly throughout the day, and it would really be the thud. I would feel the hard thud, especially when I was drinking caffeine, and I didn't know anything about that kind of stuff. I didn't know caffeine was a stimulant. I didn't know caffeine your heart could react to that kind of stuff, and beat faster, beat harder, give you palpitations, make you feel certain, it's just not good for you overall. So that's when I started to feel some things, but I just took it in stride. I was like, oh, that's weird. But I never really cared until the real cardiophobia and health anxiety hit me. So, when I was talking to Dr. Gupta, I asked him after we had done our conversation and consultation, I was like, what's normal? I was like, how many of these are normal? Am I in the normal range? At that time, I was having about 200 a day. That was the height of my health anxiety. To which, I could barely get out of bed. I was terrified of doing anything. I could not lift anything. I could barely even bend down because I was petrified that my heart was basically going to explode. I know that a lot of people in the early stages feel the same way. That's why you should always go get things tested, checked, get all the necessary tests, the echocardiogram, the EKGs, the Holters, calcium scores. If you want to go in depth about it, you can get a full total picture of the heart, and they'll tell you if anything is kind of going on. I mean, that they can see. Second opinions, obviously, I'm all for. But then that's, then you kind of got to work on yourself and move on a bit. So when I asked him that, I said, how many is normal? And he said from the tests that he ran on people, and even, I guess it included everybody, that the average amount of ectopics that people had per day was about 150. And this is coming from, a world-class, world-renowned cardiologists, that you can find on YouTube. And he's saying that 150 of these things are normal for most people. And that's average. So that kind of was holy shit. That was a kind of almost an awakening moment for me, where I'm like, I had a little bit more than the average at that point, but at the same time, I was in the worst state. Like, I was having adrenaline dumps all day long. Like, no bullshit. I was having adrenaline dumps all day. I was, petrified to move. I was petrified to even roll over. And certain times, like, I was sitting in the bed, laying in the bed, like, just sweating, like, just constant fear of something going wrong. And I have a symptoms video too that I made a little while back. So if you guys and girls want to check that out, please do, just to find out that you're not alone. I had it really bad. Just any sensation in my body would immediately send me that through an adrenaline dump, and your heart's incredibly sensitive to that. So there's not really much of a surprise as to why your heart rate can pick up. You're focused in on your heart, and then you feel an ectopic, which is a normal sensation, but now you have so much fear tied to it that you think that something's going to go horribly wrong. And then you just, at that point, that's the beginning. Now you're just paying attention to everything that's going on, and every little off, even if it's not an off heartbeat. Because I also remember getting hooked up to a Holter for, I think, 2 to 3 days over a weekend. And I didn't want to push it every time, because this was the second cardiology group that I went to see. So I was already starting to kind of try to admit to myself that everything was okay, that my heart was fine, but I was still having a lot of difficulty accepting it. So I went to a second cardiology group, and they were running the Holter on me. So I had that on over a weekend, and I didn't want to push it every time, but I wanted to push it at certain times where I could jot down the information, the date and the time, and say, okay, this date, this time, was this an ectopic, was it not an ectopic, yada, yada, yada. So when I went back in for those results, she, of course, said the same thing that the previous groups have said, that your heart is fine. There's nothing abnormal about the test at all. It's mental, right? So I asked her about certain dates and times. She was, I pressed the button, I think 40 times around there over the course of, and that wasn't everything that I felt, but that was times that I was unsure of what it was. So I wanted to get some kind of clarification of what it was I was actually feeling. So she was like, of the times that she pressed the button or whatever, there was only like 12 events or something like that recorded on the thing, which I don't know if that was accurate. I kind of think that there was more than that, but I wasn't going to quibble with it. I'll take like positive advice and kind of go. So that was the second test. It was much better than the first. The first, a lot of the stuff came like a month and a half after I had COVID also. So I don't know if there was some kind of inflammation, if COVID did something that would cause some kind of inflammation or whatever. But that cardiologist even said that he might have had some inflammation that was kind of cleared up, because things did start to kind of improve in that area. And now obviously, like, I'm better in the sense that it doesn't bother me as much. I definitely don't have as many. They're far less frequent for me. And if you have any questions about that, you feel free. You can comment down below, ask me whatever questions that you have. And that kind of takes me into the question of, I guess, the whys. Like, why do you feel them? Why you get them? Which, of course, like, there's not really one set answer for it. There could be a lot of things. Anxiety is definitely going to fuel the ectopics, though, because of the fear that's attributed to it as well. Because, again, when you're highly anxious all the time, when you're always in fight or flight, you always have adrenaline running through your system, and your heart is very responsive to it. Again, it's your defense mechanism as a human. Fight or flight, when you sense danger, your body goes into that mode to where, the blood's just, doesn't go to, outer extremities. I know for me, it's still to the fact that when I go to doctors, because I just had gone to a follow-up appointment about a week ago, my hands were ice cold. Like, I had no blood flow to my hands. My blood pressure was still fine, even though my blood pressure before that was not fine. Like, when I was really bad with the anxiety, my blood pressure when I went into one, I think the worst I had was 146 over 100 or 146 over 100 something, which obviously is not good. But I know that my one cardiologist, I was basically having a panic attack in the cardiologist's office. He really didn't seem to care much about it. I think that most people knew kind of what was going on. But now, even if I'm anxious, my blood pressure is 120 over 80, even when I'm a little bit anxious. So like those numbers have kind of calmed down too. But my heart rate was still elevated. It was 120. So like I still have this association or white coat syndrome. Like whenever I go into a doctor's office, like I still fear it. There's still something there. But at least I could say that I know what it is. I just have so many associations thinking that something was super wrong with me that every time I went to the doctor, I was thinking I was going to get news that I was dying, which obviously didn't help the condition. It just reinforces that cycle. So you're like a hamster on a wheel, just spinning in circles. So, I know that when I go into these places that I'm already in fight or flight. I know in fight or flight because I have literally no feeling in my hands. Like they're ice cold, clammy, and that's one of the main, symptoms and signs of anxiety and fight or flight, because your body is like, oh shit, like I gotta, like you might lose a limb or a hand if you're fighting off a tiger or something like that, and you gotta be able to fight for your life and survival. So I know I'm in survival mode. So it still happens. It still happens sometimes, especially when I go into certain places that I had that kind of that association with. So, with the anxiety, with the fears, with the adrenaline, your heart's going to beat faster, your heart's going to beat harder, you're going to feel palpitations. Doesn't mean that palpitations are dangerous or abnormal. It's just, most of the time, the bodily reaction to panic, fear, and you just don't sense immediate fear around you. There's not a lion, there's not a tiger across the street running at you. It's an imagined fear most of the times. It's a subconscious fear. It's something that you've tied fear to. A lot of times a sensation, ectopic heartbeats. You're just sitting around waiting for them, and you fear the sensation so much that now you have, you fear the wait for the sensation. You fear the fear of the sensation, and just kind of, it spirals. It definitely 100% spirals. Like a spiral out of control. Also, dietary things can cause it. Vitamin deficiencies can cause it. I know magnesium deficiencies can cause some things. I know Dr. Gupta had made a video talking about the effects of magnesium on like the electrical part of the heart. I know I've spoken to people with iron deficiencies that caused it. So there can be just vitamin deficiencies, mineral deficiencies, actual medical things that could be the root of ectopics. Also just dietary. If you're somebody that eats a lot of sugar, carbs, spicy foods, just bad foods in general, it's just not good for your body. There is a connection with the stomach and the heart. I know sometimes also with me, if I eat spicy food, sometimes I can get an ectopic or two following that. If I eat too fast, I've noticed sometimes I can get an ectopic or two like right after. But it just kind of is what it is. At some point you have to realize that, okay, doctors are correct. It's not like you're going to a doctor and they're just taking a shot in the dark at giving a diagnosis, right? Or at least they should be doing their due diligence and doing the workups for you, doing the testing. At that point, like I can understand when you go to a doctor and you don't have faith because you've been going through what you've been going through, and they don't know what you've been going through, and they don't sometimes have a lot of compassion for what you've been going through. But if they're doing the tests and they could see your heart, they could see the structure, they could see how it's pumping, they can see all that kind of stuff on screen, it takes out pretty much virtually all of the guesswork, and now they can just tell you for sure there's nothing going on. it's a mental thing. And at that point, okay, now you do have to start to unwind, unattach some of the associations and things like that you've been feeling about them. Because again, I am an example of somebody who went from having a couple hundred a day and fearing every sensation and getting to the point where I fear every sensation in my body. I would never be able to come outside a year ago and walk. And when I did come outside a year ago and walk, I was having brain zaps. I was having all kind of anxiety sensations. I was freezing. I felt like I was falling over. It was hell, basically, for lack of a better term. And now I don't have ectopics daily anymore. There's times where I go weeks, sometimes a month. I have nothing, and then sometimes randomly I might feel something. Like I might feel one of them, and it still puts me in like an instant, like really quick freeze, because like I think all the feelings and emotions, all that kind of stuff that are still stored subconsciously come rushing back really quick. And I fear certain things that have happened to me, or I relive certain things that have happened to me like in that brief instant, and like it kind of still can scare you a little bit. But the ectopics are the ectopics. The sensation is always the same. It's just really quick and then it's gone. It's not something that has ever lasted. But your fear that's associated, it tells yourself that, oh, well, what if it just lasts forever? What if it doesn't go away? What if it keeps fluttering? What if it keeps skipping? Yada, yada, yada. But the thing is, like, there was one time I woke up in a panic attack and my heart was skipping. I think it was like trigeminy or whatever. Like, it was every couple of beats it was skipping. And I went to the ER that morning because I had never felt that before. But the problem also was, like, I was unhealthy. I was leading an unhealthy lifestyle. Like, my diet was always shit up until I had COVID. It was a lot of carbs, a lot of sugar, excess sugar, eating McDonald's until at like 10 o'clock at night. I was 250 pounds. I'm now 191, 192 or something like that. So you do have to change your lifestyle, right? You have to change things around. It's just to improve your overall quality of life. And then that will also improve as well. As in connection with it. So I'd go into the emergency room and I was having to skip beats all the fucking, oh my God, that was the worst day of my life. It was the worst morning of my life. I remember breaking down. I was in tears in the emergency room. I literally thought I was going to die. My life was in shambles. And they didn't even care. Like they didn't even care. Like they just kind of put me. First of all, I was in there. I was panicking. I think my heart rate was like 140 or 150 or whatever. And they gave me Ativan and Xanax, and it still didn't calm me down. Just to show you how bad I was. So I think I was there for hours. I was there for a couple hours, and then it started to calm down. It started to slowly dissipate. But now, I say I was unhealthy too because I was weighing so much. I also had undiagnosed sleep apnea, okay? And I had never gotten checked for it at that point. I got checked for it a little bit after that, and it turned out that I did have moderate sleep apnea at that point because I had been tested. I did have a random test, I don't even know, 5 to 7 years prior to all this happening, and my sleep score was 5.2 events per hour, which is essentially normal. It really just doesn't even check the box of having sleep apnea. So it was never anything that was treated or whatever. But that was 30 pounds lighter. I think I was 225 at that point. And then when I had COVID, I was 250 or 220, I think at that point. I don't know. But when I had COVID, I was 250. When I had taken the sleep apnea test, I was 220. But most of that weight loss was because of COVID. It wasn't because of a healthier lifestyle. It wasn't because of anything that I was doing to better my quality of life or anything like that. It was literally just because I could not eat anything with COVID. I lost so much weight, which then kicked off all the health anxiety. So I think that had a lot to do with why I woke up and I was in trouble. Like, my body was just depleted of a lot of things to fight off COVID. I had undiagnosed sleep apnea, so I wasn't getting rest. I wasn't sleeping. My body was running on fumes. And I think my body was that was kind of a thing that my body was like, oh, fuck, so we got to fix something here. And then, like, that's obviously never happened since. And now let's get into the hows, because how you can go about trying to fix some of this kind of stuff to get you in one foot in front of the other moving forward. I'll speak from my own personal experience. You guys, of course, you guys and girls can do whatever you want. It's your life. But for me, as soon as I went to the cardiologist the first time, and I said, okay, diet, cut out caffeine and sugar and all that kind of stuff, I immediately cold turkey, I cut out every single thing, because I would never wish this upon my worst enemy. And I didn't care what I had to cut out. So caffeine, I was a huge soda drinker, iced tea drinker. It's fucking terrible for you, okay? So if it offers you nothing, okay? It offers you nothing. So if you're somebody that drinks a lot of soda or something, it does nothing for you other than be refreshing sometimes on a really hot day. Once in a while, still crack open a nice cold Coca-Cola, or I'm a Pepsi person. But I haven't had a Pepsi or a Coke or any kind of soda in over a year and a half. I do not miss it. I do not care. So I cut out all that kind of stuff. Again, if you're a coffee drinker, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, because I know, and honestly, they say caffeine is a drug. So if you get off the caffeine, you might go through withdrawal symptoms. But also, there's a bunch of caffeine in soda too. Unless you're drinking caffeine free or you have decaffeinated coffee, it might be a little bit of a problem for you. But let's prioritize here. What would you rather have? Would you rather keep the coffee in your life, or would you rather, hopefully, potentially, get rid of some fucking ectopics, or help your heart at all? Because again, coffee and all this kind of stuff at the end of the day is a stimulant. Caffeine, all this stuff is a stimulant. Lasts in your body for 12 hours. If you're drinking this at noon, it's and trying to go to bed at 9, or if you're drinking this in the afternoon after lunch, if you're going back to work at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you're drinking coffee, trying to go to bed at 10, it's still in your system. It's still going to be hard for you and to fall asleep. And some people are sensitive to it. Like, I was sensitive to caffeine. The first time I ever noticed flutters and palpitations was about a decade ago, before I even knew anything about this kind of stuff. I was drinking coffee in work, and I had never been a coffee drinker ever. So I started drinking coffee in work. Boom. Like, I just think I'm somebody who's very sensitive to caffeine. And, my heart is very sensitive to it for whatever reason. That's when I first started noticing palpitations. So that might be something, for you guys to look into. Even sleep apnea. If you're somebody, let's look in the mirror and look at some things like, how's your diet? What's your diet like? Are you overweight? Are you obese? 250 pounds, I would probably say that I am obese, borderline obese at that point. So this could be likely, or more than likely, that you have like weight-induced sleep apnea. You know what I mean? So get your sleep checked. If you have sleep apnea, it's fixable. Like, if you have the weight-induced and not something that's anatomically or structurally wrong with you, wear a CPAP machine, get your diet in order, lose the weight, and you will lose the sleep apnea. There's plenty of people who have done this. It's not something that's far-fetched. I'm actually on my way to doing it now. Like, I've had the machine for months now, and now that I've lost like 30 pounds on top of what I was when I took the test, and my actual life, quality has improved. My diet, my exercise, my sleep, all that kind of stuff. Now I'm retaking the test again next week. So if you're watching this, say a little prayer for me, because hopefully, that's drastically improved, if not gone. So we'll see what that's like on the 26th. But anyway, some other areas that you can fix from your lifestyle. If you smoke, obviously we talked about the drinking. If you're drinking, we talked about drinking, caffeine, but alcohol, cigarettes. It's just, that has no benefit whatsoever for you. It's called spade a spade. It's just cancerous to your body, literally and figuratively. So if you're drinking and you're smoking, you gotta, that's something you gotta cut out, just for life quality in general, longevity. I know you can't control longevity. You can't control your length of life just because you live the healthiest life you think possible. Doesn't mean there's something catastrophic. You can't you're driving on the road, get into a car accident. I mean, you can't control that, but you can control what you put into your body to try to be the healthiest that you can be, to attempt to live the longest that you could live, and be with your family and your loved ones, and cherish the things that are worth cherishing. Like this whole thing with anxiety, it can break you, and it probably will, but the great thing about that is that you can rebuild. Because I'm still in the process of doing it. I'm not going to say that I'm totally out of the woods yet, but like I found out so much about myself, so many things about my personality and character traits and flaws, I guess you can say, that needed to be fixed. Perfectionism, over analyzing a lot of stuff, impatience, just a lot of anger, suppressing emotions instead of expressing emotions is another thing. Like, you'll find out a lot if you do the work, if you dig in, and you can change some of that stuff so that you don't have a lot of stored up, pent up emotions that are inside of you that are just making you constantly tense, which again is not healthy either. So it can and will break you when you get to a certain point, but you can rebuild yourself from that. Okay, so don't think that it's over and your life is over and this is what you are and this is what you have to be, because that's not true. It's not the case at all. So, drinking, smoking, caffeine, diet. Okay. All right, this is probably gonna be the last thing that I'm gonna touch on, because this is over 30 minutes. And I know nobody's gonna watch this thing till this part. If you do, I'm grateful for it, and you're gonna be grateful for it if you implement it. I can promise you that. Okay, so my diet used to be trash: carbs, sugar, Wendy's, Taco Bell, McDonald's, not even caring what I put in my body, not looking at any ingredients. If you eat tasty cakes, if you eat, all this kind of stuff that people say, like, they don't mention anything about refined sugars. You're eating cookies and cheesecakes and all this kind of stuff that's not natural foods. Say that it's shit for your body. Okay, it's going to cause inflammation in your body. It's going to make you feel like crap, and then it's going to have an impact on your mental health, because your serotonin, I'm almost positive that it's your serotonin, is produced in your gut. Okay, so if your gut health is all jacked up, it's going to have an impact on your mental health, and this was the case with me. You can tell if you're somebody that you might have like IBS, you might have any kind of bowel or stomach, gut issues, digestive issues. This can be a reason for it. So I remember when I went to the doctors, the cardiologist, they told me improve my diet. Okay, so what's improving your diet? Depends on who you talk to. Now, this is a controversial and I guess kind of gray area, because some people will say, oh, well, plant-based is the way to go. And I tried that. Okay, I tried that for a while. I had mostly grains and increased my veggie intake, kind of cut down meat intake, but I wasn't really eating a lot of meat to begin with, especially red meat. I probably haven't had a steak in a long time at that point. But some chicken, grilled chicken salads, things like that. Nuts and seeds. Holy shit, I had a bunch of them. Okay, almonds, cashews, daily for snacks. I would snack on them. And what I found out was I literally felt fucking worse. Sorry, I cursed. But I actually felt worse. My body got to the point where I was feeling literally hollow inside, and I can feel everything. Like I could just feel natural heart. And okay, so disclaimer, I don't know if it was because of the anxiety at that point, because it was still bad, very bad. I don't know if it had a lot to do with that or something to do with the diet, but I've done research into this afterwards. You can do your research too. I don't think you get the vitamins and the nutrients you get if you are a vegetarian or if you are a vegan. You can just do a little bit of research. I'm not going to go more into it than that. That's not what this video is about. But I tried going more toward plant-based. Didn't work for me. Then I made a switch to mostly meat-based. Ketovore, I guess you could call it. I guess more so keto at that point. And lo and behold, I actually started to feel better after a couple of weeks on that. I think that's kind of when my transformation started to happen. Again, do some research into the benefits about all these diets and stuff like that, because it depends on who you talk to. Some people are taught one way, some people are taught a different way, some people have done their own research, some people are just indoctrinated. It's like that with everything with medicine now, in my opinion. So do some research. There's plenty of people out there who can give you benefits and things like that and talk to you about keto. Ken Berry, who I mentioned before, is probably one of the biggest. Dr. Sean Baker, Anthony Chafee. There's a bunch of guys that are on YouTube now, Bart K, who can kind of talk to you a little bit about this and give you a little bit more perspective on the benefits that even meat can have for you. So I went that route and I started to feel better. So now I don't even know how long into that kind of diet I am. And I actually went more toward Ketovore, which is more toward meat and cutting out more of, I don't eat nuts and seeds at all anymore. I don't want to. I know how I felt on them. They're tasty. Also, Paul Saladino is another one who talks about this kind of stuff. Carnivore MD. So I eat now meat, some fruit, a little bit of fruit. At least I used to now. Now I'm trying to maybe a little bit more loose or whatever, but meat, a tiny bit of vegetables, because I don't think that a lot of vegetables are good for you. That's just my personal take. Again, do your research. You can find that out for yourself. But meat, fruit, and I also find out that I'm not as hungry as I was. I'm not anywhere near as hungry as I used to be. I can go hours with fasting. I could go 18, 24 hours, fasting, and not really have that much of an issue. And come from somebody who used to need Wendy's and McDonald's every 3-4 hours. I feel like that's a big step for me. And I will also say that all of my blood works and labs have improved. I still have fears and things like that associated with certain things. So, sometimes on doctor's trips and stuff like that, vitals can be up because I just have white coat. But I will also say that my blood pressure, remember I quoted this before, my blood pressure at the worst, at the height, was 140 something over 100 or 140 something over 110, something around those lines. And when I went to the cardiologist the first time, even before I had major anxiety, before I escalated into what you would say is a disorder, it was like 136 over 90, something like that. Now, after the dietary changes and stuff like that, even if I'm anxious and I go into, a doctor's office or something like that, my blood pressure is 120 over 80. That's even with anxiety. And that's even being in fight or flight. So that's just going to show my blood pressure has greatly improved. My kidney function has greatly improved. And you can tell these by blood work with your creatinine levels and things like that. Okay. My liver enzyme improved. Because when I went there the first time, my liver enzyme was off the fucking charts. And I had to go in there with fatty liver disease. Okay. Which, again, is obviously reversible. So diet is a big thing with your lifestyle. Okay, diet is a big thing with your lifestyle. It has a very big impact on your body. And if you put the bad things in your body, you're gaining weight, you're leading an unhealthy lifestyle, you're not getting any sleep, your heart and your major organs are going to suffer for that. Okay, now, is that the be-all, end-all for ectopics? No, probably not. I don't know everybody's situation individually or independently, but can it help? I believe absolutely that it can help because it did with me. So I think I'm just going to end it off there. The hows to what to look into to improve it. I also had a video about this. Guys, I know this is long, so go through my other things. I kept them shorter for a reason. Your diet, your sleep, your exercise habits, all those kind of things make a huge impact on your life and your quality of life. And I think that everything kind of ties in together with your body and your mind. So, thank you very much for making it to the end of this video. Thanks to me for walking for 45 minutes while recording this video. That's a testament to where you can get to if you do the work, stay the course, and fix some areas of your life that need fixing. Because 1 year ago, actually longer than 1 year ago, if you want to go back a little bit further than that, say a year and a half ago, I couldn't leave my bed. I couldn't leave an apartment. I would never be able to walk. I'd never be able to walk for longer than 5 minutes before having anxiety symptoms and having to go back. I remember going for walks and exercising and feeling some ectopics while I was out, starting to sweat, going to fight or flight when I'm doing that. And that, it's not an overnight process for me. Let's say it's been a year, but I've done a 45-minute video with you guys and girls. Haven't had a single ectopic. I've been totally fine. I enjoy it now more than I ever have. I enjoy beauty. I enjoy nature. I enjoy everything. You hear birds chirping when I'm walking. I hear all that kind of stuff now in the background. It's not 100% bodily sensation focused anymore like it used to. It's still something that needs a little bit more work. As I said before also, you can see the consistency in what I say. I'm not 100% out of the woods. I don't think that I'm 100% out of the woods, but I'm getting there. And I actually honestly feel like I've turned certain corners and I'm almost there. So if you guys have any questions about anything that I said at all, please feel free, comment down below, ask me. The only stupid question is an unasked question. So, if any questions about diet, about sleep, about exercise, anything I said, sleep apnea, keto diet, any kind of diet, how I felt eating more plant-based, anything like that, feel free, ask away. I will answer any question. Basically, my journey is kind of an open book to anybody who wants to know it. So, thank you all very much, and I'll catch you in the next video.